that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 568th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell. Where are you, Tom?
In the flesh.
He's in the flesh.
In the flesh, not in the studio.
He's in the flesh, but not in the studio. I got to tell you, this is really endearing. Okay, this is all material that comes from my blog, geoharvey.com. It's news aggregation blog. I put up anywhere from 10 to 15, but usually 15 articles per day. And Tom and I talk about the most interesting ones usually every Thursday afternoon. So you can go to the blog, geoharvey.com, click on the date that we're talking about. We're going to start on the 4th of April. Is that right? Yes, it is. And we'll try to keep everybody updated on what the date is. The other thing that you can do is go down on the screen, find a file that you can download that has just the things we're talking about, or you can find a link to a website that has just the things that we're talking about. But I think we should get going. Have you got anything to say before we do, Tom?
Well, we're ready to go. We got a picture there of a coal-burning plant, which is brought to us by that wonderful company called Reuters.
That's right. Actually, the picture is brought to us by Unsplash, but the article is brought to us by Reuters. So what do you have for title, Tom?
I'm talking about the article. Good.
What do you have for title for it?
EU carbon emissions fall a record of 15.5% as renewable power soars.
Yeah, carbon dioxide emissions regulated under the EU, that's European Union, emissions trading system fell by a record 15.5% in 2023 as renewable power output soared. This is what the European Commission said. About 45% of the European Union's output of greenhouse gases is regulated by the EU emissions trading system. So that, I think, is good news.
Well, the carbon emissions are falling, and that's always a good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So do you have more about that, or should we go on?
We should go on, I think.
Good enough.
We have a picture of a view from the top of a wind turbine.
Yes.
And it comes to us from, quote, Renews.
That's right. And that picture, by the way, is a little bit frustrating to me. It was taken by a wide-angle lens that is so wide that that blade that goes out to the side toward the right looks kind of short, but it's not short. That is an artifact of the type of lens that was used on the camera. But what do you have for a title, Tom?
Renewables failing to keep pace with energy demand.
Yeah, we're going to have to explain this. Let me read the synopsis first. A report from REN 21 found that persistent obstacles prevent renewables from keeping pace with rising energy demand. This leads to an increase in greenhouse gas emissions, obviously not in Europe, but in other parts of the world. Renewables are increasing in the overall energy mix, but they are not replacing coal, oil, or gas at the pace that is required. So
that's the last part is a significant part of it. At the pace required.
At the pace required. Yeah. What's happening is worldwide, we're putting renewable energy up at an amazing rate, and it's increasing. But coal burning plants are still being built in some parts of the world. I'm not sure why, but they are. I think it's because some countries have got a lot of coal. Okay, should
it's politics.
Yeah. What should we go on?
Can't dance.
Okay. We have a picture.
Got a nice picture of a small traction battery.
That's a small. Huh? Okay, what's a traction battery? A traction battery is a battery that's used to produce motion in some sort of vehicle. And that could be a car, or it could be a motorcycle, it could be an electric bicycle, it could be a forklift. It could be a lot of things.
It's a pretty small battery.
What's that?
It's a pretty small battery.
That's that one that the guy is picking up or putting down. Excuse me, is a pretty small battery. Yeah. This is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title?
Digital battery passports are coming. Huh?
I coughed, Tom. I'm sorry.
Oh. Digital battery passports are coming to the EU.
Right. Starting in February 2027,
which is coming up quick.
It's coming up quick. Every new traction battery, two-wheeled vehicle battery, and industrial battery with a capacity over 2 kilowatt hours that is sold in the EU will need to have a digital battery passport. There are several reasons for this, including transparency and sustainability in the battery value chain. Now, what we're talking about here is, and you know, I tried to figure it out. I'm not sure that I did. I
couldn't figure it out, so I hope you can help.
Right. The question that I had was, is it all batteries that are traction batteries over 2 kilowatt hours, or industrial batteries over 2 kilowatt hours, or is it just the industrial batteries that they're worried about having a capacity over 2 kilowatt hours? If it's all traction batteries, it would include batteries that are an electric bicycle. But I don't think that's the case. I think this means that they're interested in batteries for motorcycles, you know, forklifts, things like that.
They're looking for heavy-duty batteries.
They're looking for the larger batteries. And what they mean by a digital battery passport is they mean that they want the batteries that they're regulating to be, they want them to be big, but they're going to require that every one of these batteries has an identifying number, probably, or some other.
They're trying to keep track of these things.
Yeah, they are. And I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, there's no reason why they shouldn't. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to be able to look at a battery, know when it was sold, know how old it is, know on the basis of that, they will have a better understanding of whether it would make sense to recycle that battery or reuse that battery or treat that battery in some way. Sometimes a battery can be made to recover if it's been slightly damaged, so that it can be used again for the same purpose it was originally intended for. Okay, anything more on that?
We'll move along to Friday, April 5th.
Okay, we have a picture here of a Horizon Solar project. And the Horizon Solar
comes to us from Dallas Innovates.
Yes, and this picture is, I believe, the exact project that the article is about. So what do you have for title on this?
Leeward Energy starts operations at a huge South Texas solar project.
Right. Dallas-based Leeward Renewable Energy completed construction and commenced operations at its 200 megawatts Horizon Solar project in south central Texas. The project will provide Verizon Communications with renewable energy under a power purchase agreement. So I didn't get the picture up for people to see. I want to put that up so people can actually see it. That's a pretty big solar system.
It's a pretty big solar system. It absolutely is.
And I mean, there are bigger solar systems in this world, but
this is all still in its infancy, really.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point, Tom.
An awful lot of time to develop and grow into what it needs to be.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that, Tom. Okay, we have our next, let's see, I've got to get this mouse running. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica, and we have a picture of and what is called the Autoflight Prosperity, which is a pilotless air taxi. This is an automated air taxi. So what do you have for a title?
Autoflight delivers the first electric air taxi to a customer in Japan.
Right. Autoflight is
a manufacturer.
That's right. Autoflight has achieved a significant milestone by officially delivering its first Prosperity aircraft to a customer in Japan, marking the world's inaugural delivery of a civilian ton class eVTOL aircraft. The five-seater
Just to avoid some of the confusion, that picture is called a Prosperity.
Yes.
Or that plane is called a Prosperity.
That's right. The five-seater Prosperity aircraft went to a commercial operator. So this particular thing, which is basically like a helicopter, is going to be an automated air taxi that will carry up to 5 people. And there you have it. And by the way, looking at that picture, I studied it a bit, and I came to the conclusion that that eVTOL is probably somewhere on the order of 4 or 5 inches to maybe even a foot off the ground. It doesn't have shadows under that landing gear that would indicate to me that
it is, huh?
I think it is.
So I think it's up in the air.
Very slightly, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take us on if that's okay.
Why not? Let's go to the next one.
We have a nice picture of Jersey City with a moon setting in the background. What do you think of that?
Doesn't look like Jersey to me.
It doesn't look anything like Jersey City to me, but you know, the world has changed since I was 60 years old. So
well, it comes to us from News.
That's right.
And the title of it is, and I quote, "Plans filed for New Jersey's Garden State Energy Path grid upgrade."
Right. National Grid Ventures and Con Edison Transmission have submitted plans to build transmission infrastructure that will connect offshore wind power to New Jersey's electricity grid. Garden State Energy Path will be able to carry 6 gigawatts of electricity from 4 wind farms. That's a lot of electricity.
A lot of electricity.
That's just an immense amount of power.
Gigawatts is bigawatts, baby.
Oh, I was going to ask you to say that, and you got ahead of me. I should have been paying closer attention. Yeah, well, you can say it again this show. Okay?
Gigawatts is bigawatts.
Well, yeah, you just did it. Okay, let's go on. We're up to Saturday, April 6th, and we've got a picture that we've actually seen before. And this is a
We have seen it before, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's worthwhile, you know, taking a look at it again. This is from Clean Technica.
Quote, $19 million for innovative solar panel installation over canals.
That's
right.
That
makes sense.
Yeah. The Interior Department announced a $19 million investment from President Biden's Investing in America agenda to install solar panels over irrigation canals in California, Oregon, and Utah. This reduces evaporation of needed water while it increases clean energy. So you're getting
double benefit here.
You're getting a double benefit, and there's no question about it. It means that they've got more available water for farm fields or whatever else they're irrigating for, and also solar power. And I don't know how many people are really aware of how big these canals in California are, but they have canals that go for hundreds of miles.
Well, a lot of those canals are allowing crops to be grown in places that would be otherwise deserts.
But they're also delivering water to cities in Southern California that need water. And, you know.
Yeah, they are.
So this is a big deal. Okay, this next picture really had me puzzled for quite a long time because it looked like it was a flood, and it's not a flood. This is from Clean Technica.
They confused me completely.
Yeah, I was very puzzled by it until I...
The title of the picture is Cambodian Floating Solar Mesh Grid.
Yeah.
And it comes to us from Clean Technica.
Yeah. What do you have for a title?
As does most of the stuff this week comes to us from Clean Technica.
Yeah, that happens every once in a while. What do you have for a title for this?
The potential of solar and mesh grids.
Now, the whole concept of a mesh grid was something that had me completely puzzled. I had no idea what this was all about.
I'm still puzzled about it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I had to read the article more than once to figure out what they meant. Let me read the synopsis. While the power potential of mini-grids make them viable for densely populated areas, plural, they are too expensive for rural areas with low population densities. Mesh grids offer a more affordable system than traditional off-grid installations, often with a cost just 60% of that of mini-grids. Okay, a microgrid could be...
My question, and I've got it written down, what are mesh grids?
Yeah, that was the thing. The article, unfortunately, didn't explain it well enough, I think. And unfortunately, again, if you tried to look it up online, Wikipedia, whatever, you didn't get a solution to that.
You don't get a good answer because I tried.
Yeah.
The best we have is from that picture.
Well, there's also a little bit of a description in the article. One of the things that they mention is a grid in which the electricity is running at 50 volts and it's DC. And, you know, I don't know how far 50 volts DC is going to carry, but it's not going to be very far. I would think that if you had 50 volts coming from a building where these people are on the roof of what is actually a houseboat, the buildings at the far end of this picture would, maybe the power wouldn't even reach them. What do you think?
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's happening here is each of these houseboats is sharing power to the next one over. So they're not transmitting over a long distance. They're just transmitting to the next guy or the next gal or whatever. Women sometimes get upset about being called gals. Is that a problem? I don't know. Anyway.
Hey, what?
Women sometimes get upset when you call them gals. I don't know. Women call each other guys. Hey, you guys. You know, what can I say? Anyway, what happens here is because they're really only sharing power with the next one over, and they're all making electricity with their these are little teeny solar arrays that are on their roofs, and they're saving the electricity in their own batteries, and you know, it's just passing from one houseboat to the next. They can do that. And so that means that you aren't transmitting power from the nearest one to the farthest one. The nearest one is providing for the next one over if it needs to be provided for. That one is providing for the one just past it. And you could build a grid of this type that actually...
It was very confusing.
It is kind of confusing, but if for an engineer to look at this is something that I think could be analyzed, and it could turn into something that has the potential to be really, really interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's move along.
Let's move along. We have a picture of skiing at the Stubai Glacier, which is in Austria. And this is from ABC News. American Broadcast
And
Company.
I quote the title.
Yeah.
Austria is likely to be largely ice-free within 45 years as its glaciers recede quickly. You don't think about Austria as having glaciers.
Well, you know, I've been in the Austrian Alps, and I don't think of Austria as having glaciers, but, you know, if you mention Austria and glaciers in the same breath, I say, yeah, why not? I mean, it's right there with Switzerland. Would you think of Switzerland as having glaciers? Let me read the synopsis here. Austrian glaciers receded rapidly last year, and the country is likely to be largely ice-free in 40 to 45 years as the process continues. I'm going to put this picture up because people haven't got it yet. The Austrian Alpine Club said that of the 93 glaciers its volunteers measured, all but one receded in 2022 to 2023. So, you know, you're seeing these Austrian glaciers recede, and
I wouldn't think there'd be 93 glaciers in Austria.
Yeah, I suppose. But, you know, the difference between a glacier and just a pile of snow and ice is that the glacier moves under its own weight. So that's what they're doing. And when a glacier stops moving, it's basically a dead glacier. So that's what's happening. Okay, we're up to Sunday, April 7th.
Oh, look at that guy up in the air, man. He's really got a jump going.
Yeah, that's right. And that is not going to be possible 40 or 50 years from now. And there are a lot of people out there who might like to ski, but they won't be able to ski in Austria if that happens, because the snow just won't. There will be snow.
Well, he's coming off some kind of a chute. You can believe that.
That's right. That's right.
You can't jump that high.
No, you can't. Either that or some large group of people threw him up on the air. Anyway.
Using a blanket.
Using a blanket. I was going to say that. Okay, we have an article from Clean Technica and a solar pavilion at a fair park in Dallas. Okay, what do you got?
Solar beats coal in fossil-friendly Texas, despite fossil friends.
Yes, the renewable energy juggernaut keeps rolling on in Texas, even though public officials bend over backwards to keep fossil energy interests safe. Coal's market share fell below 10% for the first time ever, to just over 9%. Solar's market share rose to above 10% in the same month. Now, what we're talking about here is not capacity. What we're talking about here is the actual delivered energy. So solar is putting more energy on the grid than coal is in Texas. And I never thought of coal as... Go ahead, Tom.
There are people in Texas that oppose renewables.
There sure are.
Seriously, renewables.
I know. That's right.
It's all politics, but they can't fight it.
Well, they can't fight it because the cost of solar power and wind power and batteries is just too low. And on top of that, you know, they had that horrible thing a couple of years ago in the winter when they had people without power for a week and so at a time, and things were really bad. And the Texas legislatures had people who were blaming wind power because some of the wind turbines were not delivering electricity because they had never been prepared for cold weather. That's something you have to prepare wind turbines for. But the wind turbines were largely delivering energy, and the solar photovoltaics were largely delivering energy. Meanwhile, the natural gas delivery system had valves that got frozen, and so they couldn't adjust them. And of the 3 nuclear power plants they had in Texas, one of them closed down altogether because of cold weather. And you could sit there and just say, why in the world would cold weather?
Politics.
Well,
It's politics, pure and simple.
Yeah, it is. But why did a nuclear power plant shut down for cold weather? It's because it was not prepared to deal with cold weather. And that's the politics that got in the way. Now, they're discovering that they've got a lot of room for renewables, and they've got a lot of ability for renewables, and the attitude toward renewables in Texas looks like it's beginning to shift. So we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, should I go?
I think so.
We have a picture.
Let's move on.
We have a picture next of penguins. These are not emperor penguins in the picture. These are
Looks like penguins to me.
Sure does. These are what are called chin strap penguins. I didn't put that down. This article comes from The Guardian. So what do you got for a title?
Simply mind-boggling. The world record temperature jump in Antarctica raises fears of catastrophe.
Right. And this is something that I'm seeing a little bit more frequently in the news, is that something weird has happened, and here is something weird that has happened. Science at Concordia Research Station in the East Antarctic Plateau documented a remarkable event. They recorded the largest temperature jump ever measured at a meteorological center on Earth. And that jump was 38.5 degrees Celsius above seasonal average. Now, 38 degrees point...
That's 70 Fahrenheit.
That's approximately 70 degrees Fahrenheit above average. Now, if you think about that, you think, okay, what's the average temperature in Brattleboro in January? You know, for a
The average temperature?
What's the average high? Let's just take a look at the high temperature in Brattleboro. In January,
it's about 40 or 50 degrees.
I think in January, I think it's actually about 30. But if you think about this, if I'm right and it's 30, and you have 38.5 degrees Celsius above that, that's 70 degrees above that, which means we're talking about 100 degrees now in Brattleboro, Vermont in January. What would you do if that happened? I don't know what anybody would do if that happened, but something analogous to that happened in Antarctica. And they're saying, simply mind-boggling? Yes, this is simply mind-boggling, and it's not good. This is, and it has, it's one of the things that has been coming up that have some of the scientists very concerned that maybe the track that we're on for climate change is not the track that we've been thinking it was, but in fact is something that's a whole lot faster and more difficult. So this is something that we just have to be prepared for. Now,
well, a temperature jump in the Antarctic is going to result in a temperature jump somewhere else, and they're worried about that.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. They also have these things where they're worried about the Atlantic, what do they call it? The AMOC, I forget what that stands for, but it's the Gulf Stream running warm water across the Atlantic, and then the warm water sinks and it becomes another stream that goes down at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean and circulates, comes up again, and that is running at a slower speed than it had in the past. And I don't know how to say that we should be ready for whatever changes are happening, because some of the changes that could happen out of this are something that is difficult.
So the Gulf Stream runs more or less on the surface, but it's got to come back, and it comes back way down below.
It comes back way down below, and that circulation system, which goes from the Gulf of Mexico to northern Europe, and then it sinks and it goes down the Atlantic and it winds up in the southern Atlantic and it rises and it starts to go across, it's a long route. And it's not easy to slow down that amount of water when it's moving, but you know, the water is slowing down because things are happening. Like, for example, as Greenland melts, it's putting very cold water on top of the ocean water there. And that very cold water spreads across the top instead of sinking the way that you would think that cold water would sink. It doesn't sink because it's fresh water from the ice. And in order to sink, it's got to sink through the salt water that is below it, which is very much heavier, even though it's warm. So that area, the warm water coming up from the Gulf is actually covered with cold water, and that could make
some strange things could be happening.
Yeah, you could have Northern Europe suddenly get very, very cold as a result of that kind of thing. But also the Gulf Stream could just stop, and that's one of the things that they are worried about. There's a lot of things that people are worried about, and we just have to kind of hope and pray that they don't happen. So,
well, Northern Europe is further north than most people realize.
Oh.
And it's kept temperate by the Gulf Stream.
That's right. People don't know this. I actually looked it up. The northernmost part of Vermont is farther south than the southernmost part of Germany.
Wow.
That's something that, you know, England and Scotland and Wales and Ireland, they're, you know, if you moved them into the Western Hemisphere, they'd be up in Hudson's Bay or something. They're very far north.
They're a lot higher up than you think.
Yeah, that's right. And if you ever go there, you would discover, you know, the sun goes down. I mean, I flew to England in 1962. That was a long time ago, but at the age of 15, I arrived in Canterbury, which is very far south in England. And the sun was setting at like 9:30 at night. And you know, in parts of the UK, it never really gets all that dark at night during the summer. But during the winter, there's a reason why in Scotland they drink so much scotch. Okay? They eat haggis. Haggis requires scotch, and they drink the scotch. And the reason is because the sun doesn't come up. Well, it does come up, but it's kind of super dim, and it's not up for very long. So, you know, the UK is farther north by far than people realize. Okay, we should go on with our stuff. We have a picture of a Volvo. What a strange thing to have a picture of, a Volvo. This is from Clean Technica.
Does it have a grill?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have a grill.
That's interesting.
Well, you know, some of these EVs... Go ahead.
Volvo sets all-time sales record thanks to EV sales surge.
Right.
How about that?
How about it? Volvo sold 78,970 vehicles worldwide in March, a 25% increase year on year. Sales of fully electric cars were up 43% and made up 23% of all Volvo global sales. Volvo sales in Europe, the firm's top market, rose 33% in March. Even better, sales of its fully electric cars rose 66% over last year's total. Now, the reason
66% is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. There's a lot of increase. Now, one of the things that, you know, I should note here is Tesla's sales are kind of in the doldrums. They're not really moving up, or at least they might be, but not significantly. Meanwhile, Volvo, Ford, a couple of other companies are seeing BMW, they're seeing their sales going up a lot. So this news from Volvo is not a surprise. But Tesla, I think, is probably the number one brand selling electric vehicles in Europe. Okay, we are up to Monday, April 8th, and we have a picture of a worker working on a silicon wafer. And this is from Manufacturing Today, India. So what do you got for that?
Adani kicks off commercial production of wafers and ingots.
Right. Adani Group has started production of wafers and ingots essential for manufacturing solar power cells and modules at a plant in Gujarat. You know where Gujarat is, Tom?
That's in India.
Okay. Yeah, Adani Group aims to be India's first integrated renewable energy player and plans for its renewables to reach 45 gigawatts by 2030. What's a gigawatt, Tom?
It's a gigawatt, baby.
That's what it is. And what's happening here is Adani Group, which is controlled by a man whose name is Adani, he's just going really, really deep into renewable energy. And that's why they're talking about 45 gigawatts. He has hit 10 gigawatts. And you know, they're interested in manufacturing. They're interested in manufacturing solar cells in India, so they don't have to buy them from China. So, you know, that's a lot of that. Should I go on?
Interesting things.
Interesting things happen. Okay, our next item is also from Clean Technica, and we have a.
It shows us a picture of an offshore wind turbine.
Isn't that amazing? Who'd have thought? And
came from Technica, like a lot of our articles this week.
What do you have for a title?
New Jersey National Guard to help with 6 gigawatts of offshore wind. Better explain that one.
Yeah, fossil fuel stakeholders smelled blood last year when they helped mobilize local residents to oppose offshore wind off the coast of New Jersey. Now, the Garden State is back on track with a long-term goal of 11 gigawatts by 2040, with a little help from the New Jersey National Guard. Well, what are they saying here? They're saying that areas of transmission and so forth that they think might be susceptible to damage are going to be protected by the National Guard.
Ah, that explains it. I was wondering how the New Jersey National Guard fit in.
Yep.
So they are protecting this stuff.
They called out the National Guard. I think that must have been done by the governor of the state, but they called out the National Guard to protect the places they thought were vulnerable. And
yeah,
you know, there's been a lot of stuff happening that should not happen. Where I think it's the fossil fuel industry, but it might be others doing things. I think
it is too.
But they're doing things they shouldn't be doing.
So the fossil fuel industry just doesn't want to give up.
Yeah. Well, our next item is also from Clean Technica. Let's take a look at it. What do you have for a title?
Fire. It was a title.
Yeah.
The picture is of a fire at a petrochemical plant.
Yeah.
But the title of the item is, and I quote, "A new EPA rule is meant to prevent chemical disasters, but safety advocates say loopholes remain."
Yeah, there is a chemical disaster on average once every 2 days in the United States.
Wow.
Coalition to Prevent Chemical Disasters provides this information. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, recently released a safety rule meant to reduce chemical disasters, but advocates say loopholes remain. I got to tell you, I looked into the loopholes they're talking about, and to my way of thinking, they're not all that big. They do exist, but the changes that have been suggested by the EPA look to me like they're a really good start. And by the way, that picture, they have firefighters who you can't see, but they have, on the right of that picture, down at the bottom, you can see the water coming out of what looks like a fire truck that looks almost like a tank. But they're hosing down these tanks that are out in this yard so the fire won't spread. And they apparently had an explosion at this particular plant. So anyway.
So those round things are tanks.
They are tanks, and Lord knows what's in them. You know, they're going to be either a liquid or a gas under pressure, and you know, the way they're burning, I would expect that they're probably flammable. So anyway, let's go on, okay?
Moving right along.
Good.
We're up to Tuesday, April 9th.
We are. Thank you for that. And we have a picture of a Calpine grid scale battery. This is from Clean Technica also.
Swapping an 800 megawatt gas generator for a 640 megawatt, 2720 megawatt hour grid scale battery.
Yeah.
So to swap an 80 megawatt for a, well, 600, yeah, swapping an 800 megawatt for a 600 megawatt battery.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that. You know the reason. Let me read the synopsis. A decade ago, this is only 10 years ago, GE installed a state-of-the-art combined cycle methane-fired turbine, that methane fired means it's basically working on natural gas, at a generating station southeast of Los Angeles. Fast forward to 2024, that plant, less than 10 years old, had been demolished, and a $1 billion battery storage facility was being built for Calpine in its place. Why do you suppose they would do that, Tom? You always know the answer to this one.
Huh?
Why would they?
Well, the battery storage facility is doing the job of the generating station.
Economics. It's the economics. That's what. But in order.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely economics.
Yeah, in order to cut down a gas-powered plant that's less than 10 years old to put in a battery,
it's got to save money.
It's got to save money, and a lot, because they don't want to have, I mean, that 800 megawatt gas generator, they don't come cheap. And that gas generator is just thrown away. So there we have it. Okay, our next item, we have a picture of Deepwater Horizon. And the item is from Clean Technica.
We certainly do.
Yeah, the item is from Clean Technica. And that picture was taken of Deepwater Horizon before the fire, obviously. So what do you have for title?
Small group of carbon majors has created the most climate pollution, and they're not slowing down.
Yes. Which companies are most heavily linked to carbon dioxide emissions? The ignominious winners are the most prominent group of carbon majors, the world's largest gas, oil, coal, and cement producers. Now, a cement producer is not, well, I guess it is a carbon major. Cement produces a lot of carbon, but the emissions are still increasing. And we have to stop that.
Cement uses a lot of energy.
They emit a lot of carbon dioxide because what they're doing is they're taking rocks and they're breaking those rocks down.
Limestone, and they're just heating the heck out of it.
And that emits carbon dioxide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Now, I have a question.
Cement production takes up an awful lot of energy.
A lot of energy. It's one of the big producers. Okay, another article from Clean Technica coming up, and here is a pretty picture. What do you think of this?
That picture is the E-Wolf,
Yep,
and it's a tugboat.
it's a tugboat. What do you have for a title?
New electric tugboat unveiled at Port of San Diego.
The port.
That's a picture of it.
That's a picture of it. That's a real picture of it. The Port of San Diego recently unveiled an electric tugboat, the E-Wolf. The electric tugboat runs only on electricity, whereas conventional tugboat uses diesel fuel. Air pollution at airports is at ports, not airports. Air pollution at ports is a well-documented problem, and this electric tugboat generates no carbon dioxide or air pollution. Now, if that tugboat is provided with electricity that comes from, say, a gas-powered or coal-powered power plant, then it's going to be responsible for carbon emissions that will be at some distance. They could be hundreds of miles away. But if the tugboat is being powered by electricity that comes from renewables, then you're basically not emitting. And of course, one of the things that modern people have figured out is how to tell the difference between an electron that comes from a wind turbine or a solar panel and the one that comes from a gas-powered plant, and they put only the little ones that come from the renewable energy into the tugboat. Do you believe that, Tom? I have completely stumped you, haven't I?
You stumped me, yep.
They can't tell, truthfully. They cannot tell the difference between an electron from a wind turbine or a solar panel or a coal-burning power plant. But the grid can be nearly 100% renewably powered, or it can be nearly 100% fossil fuel powered, and that gives you a pretty good picture of how much carbon dioxide is being emitted by this use of this tugboat. And in the California grid,
the electrons don't know the difference, but how they are produced is different.
Absolutely, and that data is available. So I'm going to move on, if that's all right with you. Our next picture, I just thought this was a really interesting picture, but you have to kind of analyze it. This is also from Clean Technica.
Yeah, this is going to require a little bit of explanation.
I believe.
Let's leave it on the...
Yeah, I will explain it. Okay?
I'll read the title and then you're going to explain it.
Right.
Texas solar power growth changing the shape of daily electricity supply in ERCOT.
Okay, you know what ERCOT means, don't you, Tom? I've got it written down.
I should, but I don't.
Okay, it's the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. In fact, that's in the. Yeah,
synopsis. I was just going to say it's the grid in Texas.
It's the grid in Texas. We have three big grids in the United States. One supplies the East, one supplies the West, and one supplies people in Texas. And what this says is the synopsis is the electricity mix in the of energy resources in Texas, managed by the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, the electricity grid operator, changed noticeably in 2023. This was because of additions of solar generating capacity, which grew rapidly, often co-located with storage. Now, if you look at the graph on the left, which is 2022 to 2023 winter, and the graph on the right, which is 2023 to 2024 winter, you can see that orange part in the middle is about half as big in the one on the left as it is in the one on the right. The one on the right looks like it got fat. You see that, Tom?
Yep.
Okay. Another thing that I doubt very many people are going to notice, but I held a ruler up to this and was able to measure it. The one on the right, which is fatter, also extends a little bit farther to the right than the one on the left. And the reason for that is because of the addition of batteries. And what this is doing you can see that the black portion dips farther down into the gray portion under it on the right than it does on the left. And that is because the energy sources that are in the solar and wind have pushed it down. All other is in the gray, and that means gas, oil, nuclear, coal. That's all being lost on the grid as solar and wind take over. Now, there was not a lot of wind put in last year, but there was a lot of solar, and that's why that solar portion is about twice as big. Okay, should we go on?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's see. We have a picture of Locarno in Switzerland. Now, as you could
How about that?
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica, and as you might guess, Locarno is in the part of Switzerland where everybody speaks Italian. You remember Italian?
Part of Switzerland, where they what?
Everybody speaks Italian in this part of Switzerland. You remember Italian Swiss colony wine?
Yes.
Yeah, they used to advertise a lot on television when I was a kid, and I could, Italian Swiss colony? What are they talking about? This is a bunch of people in California. Well, they were from Switzerland, but they were from specifically the part of Switzerland where everybody speaks Italian. There's another part of Switzerland where everybody speaks German. There's another part of Switzerland where everybody speaks French. And believe it or not, there is another part of Switzerland where people speak a language called Romansh.
Yes.
And not everybody knows that, but it happens to be true. I knew a man who is an expert in language. He had never heard of it. He went to Switzerland and he was saying, why are all these signs in Latin? And he didn't realize.
I was just going to say it sounds a lot like Latin.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Clean Technica. What have you got for a title? Let me put that item up so people can see it. Okay.
Swiss Climate Group wins a victory at the European Court of Human Rights.
This is a big deal. A group of older Swiss women brought a suit to the European Court of Human Rights claiming that the Swiss government has denied them a safe and clean environment.
That's heavy.
That's heavy. The European Court of Human Rights found that Switzerland had failed to comply with its duties to stop climate change. Switzerland is in trouble. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm going to have to start thinking about it, that's for sure.
Well, I got news for you. It's not Switzerland that's in trouble. It's Switzerland and everybody else who has not moved to protect little old ladies. And I, at my stage of life, like little old ladies. So I rejoice when they rejoice. What do you think of that, Tom?
I try not to.
Okay. Our next item is...
Oh, we got a nice picture of wind turbines in Spain.
We do. We have a picture of wind turbines in Spain. Let's put it up. And
it comes to us from the Good News Network.
It sure does.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, the Good News Network publishes, I don't know if they publish every day, but I see their stuff up from time to time. Most of it is not material I can use, but when they're talking about energy and climate change, it is stuff I can use. What do you have for a title?
Well, there's a bunch of wind turbines out there, so the title has to say something about it.
Go ahead.
Incredible. 80% of Europe's electricity was powered by clean energy in the first 2 months of 2024.
Read that again, please.
I will.
Okay.
Incredible. 60% of Europe's electricity was powered by clean energy in the first 2 months of 2024.
Absolutely. This is remarkable. According to energy think tank Ember, and Ember is an organization which is really on top of its numbers, Europe's generation of 516,500 gigawatt hours of renewable electricity in January and February satisfied 60% of overall power demand in Europe. This marks a gain of 12% from the same period in 2023. And that, I think, is really remarkable.
Well, 60% is significant.
Yeah, I think it is. 60% is significant. And you know what I think really drove this more than anything else? And it makes me sad to think that this is the case. But I think the thing that really drove this was the Europeans deciding that they would not do business with Russia for oil and gas while the Russians were engaged in a war in Ukraine. Now, in other words, the thing that pushed them was that people were being killed in Ukraine. They should have said, we're going to put this renewable energy in as fast as we can because we need to. But no, they put it in because they wanted to punish Russia, which I think they should have done. I think this invasion of the Ukraine, of Ukraine, it's not called the Ukraine anymore. Invasion of Ukraine happened just because somebody at a higher level in Russia was being greedy and wanted to look virile in the eyes of people in his country. But
well, you can see which way this is going, and it's the economics, stupid.
That's right.
60% of Europeans' electricity was powered by clean energy.
That's right.
Eventually, it's all going to be powered by clean energy.
Very soon, I hope. Okay, we have a final slide for everybody, and it says, have an unabashedly splendid week. And what that means, unabashedly, means don't be abashed by it. Don't feel abashed. If it's splendid, just let it be splendid and say to everybody, this is splendid. Right, Tom?
Right.
Okay. Listen, I'm waving goodbye. Tom is waving goodbye.
I'm waving goodbye, and my cat isn't here to wave goodbye.
Oh, I was going to ask about the cat.
He's hiding somewhere.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the way cats are. They like to be very private. So that's the end of our show. And what do you have to say about coming back, Tom?
You all come back and see us now, you hear?
Have a good week.